We got hit by a cyclone during that stretch. Nearly for about 17-18 hours continuously, we were whipped by high winds and waves.
With a bucket and mug, we bailed out and threw out something like 60, 70, 80 buckets of water.
Paramilitary unit. They at once arrested us. I had enough Persian at that time that we are not smugglers, we are not wayward people, we are officers, we want to be treated well. I found a tall, handsome Pathan coming towards me and asking me in Urdu, भाईजान, आप इन कम वक्तों के पास कैसे पहुंच गए?
Hello everyone, welcome back to another exciting episode of Fauji Days. Back in 1977, the Corps of Engineers undertook a historic boat voyage across 3,500 kilometers of ocean from Mumbai to Bandar Abbas in Iran in a 19-foot sailboat named Albatross. This voyage was the first time that Indians sailed to foreign shores, and it marked a significant milestone for the country. Despite limited resources and challenges such as limited buoyancy, no cabin, engine, power source or navigational aids, this crew successfully completed the voyage, inspiring future expeditions and explorations. This expedition also served as a testament to the spirit of adventure and determination of the Indian Army. Fauji Days is fortunate to have some of its crew members today, including Major PS Pammi, the skipper of the expedition, Capt AP Singh and Capt AK Singh. The session is moderated by Brigadier TPS Chowdhury, who was on the crew of Trishna, the first Indian sailing expedition around the world. Without further ado, let's hear from the crew of Albatross.
Good evening, the crew of Albatross, which sailed from Mumbai to Bandar Abbas and back.
Thank you, sir.
It's a great privilege to welcome the three musketeers who are sitting here, the skipper and the crew of Albatross. And we going over old memories which our youngsters have not heard so far. The skipper of the expedition from Mumbai to Bandar Abbas via Dwarka and Karachi. There's Major Pammi, PS Pammi, who has come all the way from the United States today to tell us about this adventure. And we will be hearing it firsthand from Major Pammi, who has led the expedition in the Albatross sailing seabird class of boats. Also, we have with us Brigadier AP Singh, who was the crew member and was also a very distinguished personality, sailed in many expeditions and is also a renowned writer and a researcher in antiques. AP Singh has taken part in many expeditions, but first we will cover the Albatross. And last but not the least, Major AK Singh, who again is a distinguished sailor and who sailed in the Albatross and many other boats in the Bombay harbour and abroad, and also sailed around the world in the expedition in Trishna. But we will presently only cover the Albatross today. So over now to Major Pammi, who will tell us the background of the expedition, how it was evolved and what all was involved in that. And then we'll come to the rest.
The boat named Albatross was left by an English officer to the Corps of Engineers, and that was the only asset which we had. That was the only boat which could sail in the harbour at the sea at Bombay. Sometime in 1976, I was asked by our Commandant, General Precap Puri and Brigadier Harry Kapoor, to convert that boat into an open sea sailor. So we have a very wonderful workshop at the College of Military Engineering. I use the facilities of the workshop to make arrangement to put a small cabin on board where 2 people could sleep at one time, and also have enough shelves to carry the food and provisions for 2 months for 3 people, and also incorporated some other safety precautions so that the boat could be used even under the worst of conditions in the open seas. When the boat was ready, me and AP and AK, we capsized the boat with the help of a crane and tested it out, and find out that even when the boat capsizes in the open seas, we will be able to set it right again and survive. So as far as the boat was concerned, we couldn't do anything more. It was a 19-footer small boat, and nobody could improve the situation any better. Then the planning started, and I put up a paper giving all the details as to how we were going to move and sail from Bombay to Dwarka in the first trip. That would also be a test for our system. And under that arrangement, Major AK Singh he pitched up a tent at Dwarka to receive us and see if everything is perfect so that we could go from Dwarka to Karachi. It took us 17 days to reach Karachi, and we were able to find the Karachi harbor, and we docked into the Karachi sailing boat. And when we went on shore, we were taken in as guests of a very famous sailor of Pakistan, and he said that his beach luxury hotel will be open to us as guests for as long as we stayed in Pakistan. So we stayed there for 5 days and sailed out from there towards Iranian port. When we were in Pakistan, we did not know what kind of reception we will be given by the so-called enemy in Pakistan. I was surprised to find that when we were sitting there on the very first day, a naval officer came and saluted me, and he said, "Sir, I am Lieutenant so-and-so from Pakistan Navy, and I will be your liaison officer during your stay in Pakistan. Any help you need, you let me know." So that officer became very friendly to me over a period of time. And one day he brought a staff car, and he asked me if I will come and have a dinner in his house, which had been cooked by his biwi. So I was so moved I couldn't refuse it. I went and had that dinner with him. And then we established some kind of contact. He showed me Karachi city. He showed me Mazar of Qaid-e-Azam. He showed me various banks of Karachi, and we had a good time for 5 days. Thus, the Parsi community in Karachi was so kind to us. They loaded us with the provisions when we moved out. They even had a sale and a dinner party in our honor. So after 17 days, we moved off and started going toward Gwatar area. And when we were sailing by compass at night in Gwatar area, we found next morning when the light came up that we were surrounded by the Gwatar Bay, and we were surrounded by the Pakistani desert all over the place. It was a kind of dangerous situation because we could have been taken for spies. So we ran out as far as we could, and it took us 1 full day to get on our route again toward the Iranian port. When we were entering the Iranian seas at night, at about midnight, a launch came. It had a floodlight on the top, it had a machine gun fixed on the top, and it had a loudspeaker. So suddenly it blinded us with all the floodlight, and then started asking us questions on the speaker. He said, "Who are you?" We said, "We are officers from the Indian Army." "Why are you here?" "We are going from Bombay to Bandar Abbas." "Go back. We don't want you to go forward." We said, "Our manzil is Bandar Abbas, and we are not going to go back because we are going to finish our planned adventure trip. So after that, that boat used to come, launch used to come almost every night and check us out. When we were close to the entrance of Persian Gulf, we saw a lot of beautiful lights, a lighted up area, and I got the feeling that there's a big town here and we should take a day off because we had been having hard time during the passage. So we parked our boat and I told a local Iranian, please take us to the customs so that we can report our arrival. And when he took us to the customs, we were surprised that it turned out to be the quarter guard of a paramilitary unit. They at once arrested us and we were totally taken by surprise. Then I asked the guards who were putting us under bayonets, I asked them that I would like to see your boss. I had enough Persian at that time which I had learned in NDA, and I could communicate this system to him that we are Afsaran-e-Hind and we are not smugglers, we are not wayward people, we are officers, we want to be treated well. So then he asked an officer of the unit to come and see us. That officer turned out to be a Pakistani doctor who was the medical officer of that unit. When I saw him for the first time, I found a tall, handsome Pathan coming towards me and asking me in Urdu, Bhaijan, aap in kambakhton ke paas kaise pahunch gaye? And I told him, Pathan bhai, hamara मंजिल तो बंदर अब्बास था, हमने सोचा ये बड़ा अच्छा शहर है, इसमें एक दिन रेस्ट कर लेंगे, मगर बाद में पता चला ये तो आपका एयरफील्ड है और ये तो सारी फौज के अंडर है सारी सिस्टम, तो हम बड़े सरप्राइज हुए. वो पठान जो था, he acted in such a friendly way. He says, today I am going to declare you sick, you will be admitted to my hospital and my nurses will look after you. But the same night they assembled in an interrogation team to interrogate me for 2 or 3 hours. They were worried whether we had some weapons, we had a radio set, why we were there. And especially at that time, there was a big naval exercise going on between British Navy, Pakistan Navy and Iranian Navy. So they were surprised perhaps why we were coming at that particular moment to that particular place. Luckily for me, I was carrying the edition of Times of India on the day we left from Bombay. And on the front page of the paper, the news had been published about us going to Iran on an adventure trip. So somehow I think they were satisfied with that and they realized that we didn't mean any harm. So we were kept there for 5 days. And their commanding officer was a very friendly man. I asked him, now you know that we are not spies, why don't you let us go? He says, this is not Indian Army. I am not CEO of an Indian unit. I am just one of the officers. If I make a mistake, they'll put me against the wall and shoot me down tomorrow. Don't think this is Indian Army. So anyway, we waited for 5 days. The orders came from somewhere, Tehran, that we can go. So we were let out in the evening. And we decided that we are not going to go out in the sea at that time, and hundreds of ships were passing by and they could have run us over at night in the dark. So we decided that we will also not take a chance with the Iranians anymore. We will run out as fast as possible. So in the middle of the night in the dark, we went into the open sea and we parked in a shallow area where no ship could come and run us over. And then we stayed the night there. Next morning, when we were entering the bay, we were surprised to find the British Armada coming out at that time. 10 ships led by their flagship called HMS Tarbetness, Her Majesty's ship Tarbetness. And I was surprised to find he was on the deck. The admiral was saluting our miserable boat down in the sea. And I suddenly got up, put on some kind of shorts and saluted back. Then all the rest of the ships, 9 ships following, they saluted us one by one. And we knew that this is a very old seaman tradition. If 2 friendly ships meet in the high seas, they will give compliments to each other. So we were very happy. Luckily, our radio set, which had died about a month back in India, I asked my friend AP, please open the radio set, let's see if it works or not. He says the battery is already dead, what are we going to do? I said, let's try it. When he opened the radio set, we were able to contact Pune at once. And we were able to pass the message to our people back home that all is well with the boat. We are going to reach our destination in 2 days, and please send the team to bring the boat back. So when we reached the jetty in Bandar Abbas harbor, we were gratified to find our friends were sitting there on the sea wall, and we handed over the boat to them, and we were free from there. Unfortunately, our delay, which had taken place because of arrest, made us miss the weekly flight from India. So we had to stay back there for 6 or 7 days more. We did not have much money. We did not have any resources. So we went to the military attaché there, one Colonel Murgai, and I requested him, please help us out. He says, the only thing I can do is refer you to the Gurdwara here, which is called Masjid-e-Hind. So we landed up in the Gurdwara, and I met Bhai Makhan Singh there, a Sardar. So I asked him, Makhan Singh, you have been putting up all Christians, Muslims, everybody from India. What about us? He says, I don't know, you might be smugglers, you might be somebody else. All kinds of people land up here. I said, no, you talk to Colonel Murgai. We are genuine army officers. So we stayed in the Gurdwara for 6-7 days. And whenever there was a langar, we had it. And whenever there was no langar, we would go out and eat whatever little food we could find in the street. So that is how the trip was successfully completed. And our friends to bring the boat back was in charge now.
And AP, you had also gone on this trip. So what were your experiences on the actual journey and the weather en route and any experiences?
In those days, we are talking about the year 1977, when sailing was hardly a known sport in India and there were no facilities available. So all of us had very minimal practice in sailing boats or handling boats, especially in the open seas and oceans. And when we started the trip, we had undertaken a month's training off Bombay Harbour, sailing daily, trying to get used to the boat. But it's a totally different experience when you are crossing the open seas. Like our first destination was Dwarka, and in Dwarka, to reach Dwarka from Bombay, you have to cross the Gulf of Cambay, which is an open stretch of ocean. And as luck would have it, we got hit by a cyclone during that stretch, and nearly for about 17-18 hours continuously we were whipped by high winds and waves. And our boat, as Major Pammi brought out, it was a small boat, 19-footer, and the seaboard, that is the sea level to the top of the boat, was just about 9 inches. You can imagine how low it was. So even the smallest of waves used to come inside. And so it was most of the time you are just using buckets and mugs to remove the water from inside the boat, and it kept coming. So that was actually our first experience of sailing through a storm. And since the boat didn't have any sort of covering as such, by the time we reached Dwarka, all our charts, our manuals, the books which you're using for navigation and other things, everything was totally wet. And the stay in Dwarka actually was spent in just drying out our stuff before we could sail for the next leg.
That's good. That's wonderful.
Beautiful.
And AK, you were also there on the return journey, and I'm sure you had some wonderful experiences of the return journey back to Bombay. So can you narrate some of your experiences?
Well, Tehran, Mehrabad Airport, Tehran was my life's first international flight, so I was very excited. I was a young officer of about 24 years of age. You can imagine 23, 24 years of age nowadays, you know. So Major Pammi was the person who conceptualized the voyage and the leader of the expedition and a skipper on the way out. I think he co-opted me as a youngster who would possibly bear the flag further of yachting and sailing. And I had been sailing since NDA days. I had been selected as an NDA cadet for the Youth Olympics. My first passport was made when I was a fourth termer in the National Defence Academy. So yes, I was into sailing, yachts and things like that. But sailing the Albatross, which AP has brought out and Major Paramjit Singh Pammi has amply brought out, was just 19 feet long. Now, to be quite honest, when we look back at our voyage, there's a famous book called Mutiny on the HMS Bounty. It's a movie too, and it's a true story about a mutiny on Her Majesty's ship. And the mutineers put the captain and his chief mate and others into their lifeboat and cast them adrift. And they finally survived, reached, across the Pacific. Now, that lifeboat of that ship was also bigger than our Albatross. So today when I look back, and I was speaking this afternoon, if you may recall, I was speaking to General Mohan Singh, who the others from the Corps of Engineers, who have sailed the Albatross and the other equal-sized boat, the Rajhans, from India all the way to Port Blair. And all of us agree that we would possibly not do it again. It was, as Major Pammi brought out, that was the only boat left by some British officers, hand-me-down to the Corps of Engineers. And he modified it a bit and we managed to sail to Iran and back. It's, I think, quite an amazing story now when I look back. But yes, youth is, a time when you are full of josh and you don't think so much. And I had my seniors who took the boat to Iran and back. And when I landed at Mehrabad Airport, we again, as Major Pammi mentioned, Colonel Murghai was the AMA military advisor in Tehran. And as he was saying, I don't know if all of us have understood the way he was saying it, that we just didn't have enough money. India was a very, very poor country. And we had no money to live in a, let's say, even an average hotel or any hotel. So Colonel Murghai again pointed the way to the Gurdwara. So we again stayed in the Gurdwara before the boat reached, Bandar Abbas. And then we caught the night bus. It was a modern bus. Tehran and Iran was a modern country at that time by any standards. Reza Shah Pahlavi, I think sixth, was the Shah of Iran that time. And it was a very modern kind of a setup. So we caught that night bus and it brought us full speed, on a good super highway all the way to Bandar Abbas. There, an Indian family very kindly put us up into their home, but just to be nice to them, we would leave, after a morning cup of tea and maybe a small snack. So it didn't impinge on their, hospitality. And we would sit on the parapet, look out to the sea, and it's quite amazing. We had no form of communication. And we would look out to the sea and say, let's try and see when Albatross is coming in. It was like, a dot on the sky. It could be a fishing craft. It could be anything. And we were trying to say, let's see when the Albatross is coming in. And we would sit there the whole day or walk up and down the parapet the whole day. There was no other way of communicating with them at all. And lo and behold, one day, we see a sail as it comes closer and closer. It becomes white and not the fisherman's dirty sail. And it had that Kudremukh, who were one of the sponsors of our voyage, Kudremukh oars of, I think, Bangalore or somewhere. And it was our boat, the Albatross. And we were absolutely thrilled to meet each other because from Bombay to Dwarka, Karachi, along the Makran coast, their adventure at Jask, Ras-e-Jask was the port where they were incarcerated by the Iranians for a few days, almost under, bayonet, under their bayonets. And then all the way to Bandar Abbas and meeting these, my friends, senior elders, whatever, they were my buddies and friends. Meeting them over there was quite a great feeling. I can still recount it. And we took over the boat, three of us on our way back. And we retraced the steps. Our first port back from Bandar Abbas, we checked out the boat, saw maybe a few repairs here or there to the ropes and the rigging and things like that. And we reached Karachi Harbour, and we again stopped in Karachi Harbour at Mr. Bera Mawari's Beach Luxury Hotel, who was a very well-known yachtsman of Pakistan. He had won the Asian Games silver and I think once a bronze medal. He and his wife used to sail. We stayed at Beach Luxury Hotel, and we were welcomed over there as sportsmen. And as Major Pammi has already brought out, they were very courteous to us, giving us all kinds of hospitality and things like that. The same lieutenant from the Indian Navy was our liaison officer again. He took us out to see Karachi, and as in the end, as to them, he bought small onyx gifts like ashtray and all that, and gifted it to us as goodwill gesture. And we sailed back. Even on our way back, when the waves are, as AP was just bringing out, the freeboard of the boat, that means from the water level, sea level, to the deck level, was just about 8-9 inches. Now, every time a small wave came by, it would poop the boat. Poop the boat means it would just slosh in and the water would go in. And I remember one night when my crewmates, K.S. Rao and Pushpinder Bedi and me, with a bucket and mug, we bailed out and threw out something like 60, 70, 80 buckets of water, one by one, because it kept coming in and we kept throwing it out. Because if we hadn't thrown it out, the boat would have gone to the bottom of the Arabian Sea. On a lighter note, Pushpinder Bedi, he was our crewmate. And in the dark, some of these birds, they follow you because as you see birds following any fishing trawler, they think you'll throw out crumbs and they will kind of pick up the crumbs or something from the sea. So one of the seagulls landed on his, he used to have a balaclava cap, army balaclava cap, something like my cap, but OG colored. On his hat because it is a cool sea breeze. It's quite chilly at night. I was sitting and steering the boat with a tiller in his hand, and everything was still and calm, and the boat was sloshing about, doing a reasonable speed. So the seagull came and landed on his cap because he wasn't moving. So the seagull thought it was a stationary something and landed on his head. I think we have a picture of that also. And I remember old Mr. Kushwant Singh, one of his pretty odd wisecracks, which he was quite used to, and they're very entertaining. One of them, I remember, those were the days when it came out something like this, ki, "Oye, birdie, ki gal hai? Te sardi kenda wo sardi, ya te seagull hai." We can laugh at all this now, but in the middle of the Arabian Sea, when you're pushing out 80 buckets of water at night, hoping like hell with no communication with India, whether you're going down or you're going forwards, it all appears pretty funny, and it is a great, great voyage. And in many ways, I can say, as a closing gambit from my side, it was my first introduction to blue water sailing. You know, we sailors call it green water sailing and blue water sailing. Green water sailing are the shallow water sailing, where the waters also appear a little green because they're shallow, continental shelf and things like that. And blue water sailing is when you go into the deeper seas and oceans. So it was my first exposure to blue water sailing. And when I look back, I think it really was, the voyage of the Albatross really was the precursor to the Corps of Engineers, who subsequently sailed around the world, being the first Indian boat to sail around the world on yacht Trishna in 1985 to 87. So that is what Albatross is all about. And we have Major Pammi here, who was the one who planned it all. Thank you, sir.
Well done. All three of you, Major Pammi, sir, AP and
officers.
And of course, Albatross has been a landmark in the Corps of Engineers, and stationed at the College of Military Engineering, repaired and everything there. And we had started sailing in the Albatross from the 60s and done journeys from Bombay to Goa, Bombay to Cochin, Bombay to Ratnagiri, and many others return journeys. Because that was the only boat available to us, and the Rajhans came much later on. So well done, everybody. And
Thank you.
I think it's definitely should inspire the youth of the country to take on many more adventure journeys Of course, now you got the GPS and you got the mobile phone and you got the sat nav and you got the auto hem and what have you. So things have become much easier.
I'd like to add one small sentence for those of us who may not know. The Albatross and the Rajhans today lie as museum pieces in the Corps of Engineers College of Military Engineering at Dapodi in Pune. So those of us who do have access or are further inclined to go and see the size of the boats and what they're all about, as is also Trishna on the same platform there in Pune. It's in the College of Military Engineering as a museum piece.
That's right.
I would like to add one more thing. Both in Pakistan and in Iran, when we told them that we are Afsaran-e-Hind, we are officers from India, those people had a certain amount of respect for us. And I think even today, India enjoys a very high reputation in their eyes. They treated us well as compared to Pakistanis at the same time. They were also imprisoned in the same place, 70 Pakistanis. They were treated like cattle in front of me. I was passing by their room where 70 people were herded up in one particular place, one room, and they asked me, Allah, hame bachao, hame bachao. They recognized me. I said, what do you want? They said, we are getting one glass of water and half naan every day. And they are going to kill us with starvation and with all this overcrowding. And then the officer in charge, he had become very friendly to me. I asked him, I said, Lieutenant Raza, why don't you give these poor guys at least water to drink? He said, I've got only 2 guards and 1 bathroom, and there are 70 of them. If I start taking them to bathroom one by one, my soldiers will be tired, drop dead. He says, this is the only way we treat them, because they come into our waters and they don't even ask for permission and they fish in our waters. Then the same people were taken for interrogation with us to Bandar Abbas over a 400-mile trip by road. We were given a jeep, 3 of us, whereas those Pakistanis were given one open truck. 70 people were herded in that truck, forced to sit down on haunches, and the guards told them that I have loaded up my rifle with weapon, and anybody who stands up will be shot dead. So that is the kind of treatment which we found we were getting from these people, including in Pakistan. And I felt so great about them.
Thank you very much, Major Pammi, for having come here and given us your narration of the wonderful journey to Bandar Abbas and back in Albatross. And thanks a lot, AP and AK,
Thank you.
for the nice experiences en route and whatever you've done with Albatross, not only on this trip, on earlier trips too.
Thank you, sir.
God bless you all.
Thank you.
And keep up that adventure spirit.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you,
Thank
sir.
you so much.
Friends, our Faujis have been and continue to be the lifeline of our nation. Come hell or high water, they have always been there for us, whether in times of war or natural calamity or any other challenge India has ever faced. And the culture, traditions and history of the Indian military are part of a rich heritage, painstakingly preserved by one and all. To cherish and celebrate this heritage, a unique initiative called Fauji Days has been launched by the budding startup 99 Beagles. So what is Fauji Days? Well, it is primarily an oral history project based on interviews and recordings. Faujis always have tons of stories to relate, many of them inspiring, thought-provoking, funny or engaging, and highly satisfying for the curious, especially young adults in their formative years. These engaging interactions between officers, men and women from our services, with young adults from schools and universities are being captured on camera by us. We want to showcase the diversity of lived experiences on the one hand and the perceptions and expectations on the other. Allow me to also add that the scope of Fauji Days initiative is not limited to just oral history. It also encompasses the written word and the world of military publishing. Already, several books by eminent military authors have been published under this umbrella, and all have been well received by the readers. The Fauji Days website is another crucial resource designed to house the diverse aspects of this project. It features multiple blogs, reference and archival material, and a community newsletter that highlights the progress made as well as the new recordings and books. Feel free to log on and subscribe. I warmly welcome you to be a part of this initiative, no matter what color uniform a Fauji wore, or whether he or she served on terra firma, flew in the air, or rode the waves. The fact remains that each one of these brave hearts is a reservoir of remarkable tales and cherished memories. Fauji Days wants to share these memories and tell these tales to a much wider audience. If a nation is made of memories, then Fauji Days will prove that Fauji men and women have contributed some of the best. As a Fauji, you can reach out to us and tell us about your rich experiences. Get in touch and we will revert with an audiovisual team equipped to capture your recall. Or if you're too distant, we can guide you about how to record and send it to us. Of course, you can also write your tale and send it to us to be featured here. We have the wherewithal to capture you on video from whatever location on the planet. All we want is to know your story so that India knows her story better. It is incomplete without yours. Please also feel free to send your contributions to this archive of India's valor in the form of nostalgic pieces, anecdotes, pictures, or other content you may wish to share with the wider Fauji Day community. On behalf of Team 99 Beagles, I thank you. As they say, Fauji Days never end. In fact, they are just beginning. So, Fauji Days forever. Jai Hind.